Well, it appears Lance has defeated me utterly and completely in the political prediction game. Um, so I mean, the big races are New York, and there we go with 94% of the precincts reporting. They've called it Zoran Mamdani with over 1 million votes and more than nine, almost 9% ahead of Cuomo. So even if all the Sliwa and
Every
if
everyone you give them all, you give all the other
he,
votes,
he
he's
has
going to
he
win.
has a majority,
Yep.
a majority of the people in the city of New York hate New York. That's all I can say to you. Like there is no other like. And then what really disgusts me is, okay, the governor, it like okay, the governor, I mean, I wish Earl Sears was winning after what happened, but you look at the attorney general. Where's the attorney general?
At the top, he's up at the top.
Oh, they put him first.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what everybody cares about.
Yeah.
Um, like how many votes? 1,623,249 people in Virginia Attorney General's election thought that we can live in a society where half of the state knows that the top law enforcement official in the entire state, the person who is responsible to prosecute any murders, wants their children dead.
Threatened to shoot
Well,
the House Republican with 2 bullets, piss on his grave, and watch his children die in their mother's arms.
see, this is the thing. This is the thing. He very clearly stated, right, that the only way Republicans will learn to have empathy is if bad things happen to them. And this is why he wants to see both of the little children of the House Speaker, was it?
Yeah, the House Speaker.
Who he had met these children. He wanted them to die so that their father understood the pain. And when somebody went, hold on, no, you can't mean this, stop saying this. He doubled down and tripled down and got on a phone and argued with them. And then after the argument, he sent more texts. And then years later, he was reiterating it. Like, and then finally people went, "Are you insane?" And he went, "I want to win this." So I guess I'll kind of have to apologize maybe a little bit that people misunderstood him, I guess. And
Well, though, but even the governor, like Spanberger, came out and called his comments abhorrent and reprehensible, but they didn't think he needed to get out of the race. But again, they're playing. It's all tied into the Mamdani. It's when they say the socialists and the communists want you dead, we see it throughout history. That I mean, it's true. And Virginia's listen, all of these races were going to be uphill races for sure for Republicans, right? They would have taken some fairly historic, massive swings. So you weren't expecting this. Um, to some extent, but like over 1.6 million people voted for that, Jacob, right? 1.6 million. And now Virginia, obviously, this whole trying to shrink federal government and stop this stuff. I mean, in that state, at Northern Virginia, there's a lot of what's trying to happen here really like affects that state. But so here's where we're at. But see, Jacob, you live in a state where this has happened, right? Dems have voted for decades for policies that have destroyed their cities, that have made themselves and their children less safe. Businesses are having to be boarded up. Like I love watching, like in Portland or whatever, these small businesses are trying to please stop the crime because they've lost their businesses. Major corporations have to literally leave these places. So they don't care about their own safety. They don't care about the destruction of their cities. You can't walk down the street because they're drug dens and feces filled and everything else. And they voted for a vegetable. He was a vegetable when he was running in 2020, Joe Biden. They will vote for a guy right after Charlie Kirk's death. They don't care. The one thing I'll tell you, the one thing the Dems have, they stay together. They will vote for whoever ends up there, right?
They will endorse Hakeem Jeffries. Did Chuck Schumer end up endorsing Mamdani?
Yes.
Honestly,
Jeffries did. I'm not sure about Schumer.
Yeah, Jeffries. I mean, it took him forever to do it because obviously he has to see which way the idea of leadership is beyond him, right? Like he did literally the worst thing you could do.
Well,
right?
And the thing about Mamdani too is, like, we have all these posers. Like AOC went to a rich high school in the suburbs and was a theater kid and acts like she's Jenny on the block from the Bronx. She's not. Jasmine Crockett went to a rich private school and acts like she's from the hood. Mamdani
She has a law degree and speaks in Black English vernacular. Please.
You talk about appropriation, and then and then you look at Mamdani. This is this rich, rich carpetbagger, not born in America.
Oh, his parents. He has a home in Uganda where they pretty much have slaves.
Yes.
Like they literally have slaves. At his wedding party, there were people who, frankly, on 1 month's rent, live on 1 month of his rent, right?
Yeah.
Like in a year, working at his parents' palatial estate with all the corrupt rulers coming to their wedding party. Like in one thing, I so can't believe it. I don't even want to talk about the facts. In another, it amazes me. I have a nephew who he really follows politics a lot, right? He's for somebody his age, he's 24 now. For somebody his age, he definitely knows more about politics and follows things more than people do. And on Sunday, I was showing him, I don't know if you saw the article where Mamdani wrote about his experiences when he went to Egypt to study with the Muslim Brotherhood, Arabic, right? This guy literally went basically to a madrasa in Egypt where he went to a teacher who was Muslim Brotherhood, right? And he talks about his experiences of having a beard and seeing the protests where women were being assaulted, and he decided not to volunteer with an organization that that stops people being women from being assaulted during these protests, because he thought they didn't need the interference of some foreigner who didn't speak Arabic so well.
Yeah.
Right? He wrote this effing article where he describes all of this stuff. right? I saw a video of him talking about Ashura. I didn't even realize he is a religious 12er Muslim.
Yeah.
12er Shia Muslim, and who believes in and I quote Imam Hussein alayhi salam, right? Peace be upon him. There was never any peace on Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein died a warrior, lived a warrior, and died as a warrior. Okay? And it's just honestly, it's triggering to somebody who is a refugee in this country from the Islamic Republic of Iran, because a bunch of communists, including people like Michel Foucault, was on the airplane with Ayatollah Khomeini when he flew into Iran. Michel Foucault, their hero, was on that airplane. Every single gay man who has been forced to have transgender surgery, and there have been hundreds of them, to avoid being publicly executed on a crane, and there are hundreds of them, right, is a direct result of Michel Foucault and the communist advocacy that helped bring the Islamists into power in Iran, which is why I am here as a refugee and my family is here as refugees, and we came here fleeing these Islamists. I'm beside myself.
Yeah, but take a step back. This is completely understandable. One of the things, Charlie Kirk talked about this a lot. He's like, again, we go back to what happened in 2016, right? Like there's this populist and you've got the left wing. We've seen this hard left group. I mean, what really is shaping up in this country, and the normies are totally out to lunch. They don't get this. But Bernie finally got his victory tonight, right? That's been delayed. This is the democratic socialism. This is Mondami versus MAGA now, right? Bernie, AOC, the Squad, Occupy Wall Street, Antifa, Free Palestine, wokeism to the extreme, right? And a lot of this, a lot of these young people and all these others, it's out of resentment. First off, let's throw and I'm sorry, we're going to be blunt instrument. The boomer Dems will vote for anybody you throw out in front of them, right? They just will. And again, these progressives have been doing this all over in all their cities. They don't care, right? Defund the police, violently taking over police stations in Minneapolis and in Portland and other places, and mostly peaceful. Oh, no. Well, violence is one side, like this, totally putting a blind eye to this. But this whole idea that a moderate, think about New York City, the whole idea that we might end up getting some sort of moderate or whatever, this is this democratic socialism. This is Mamdani versus MAGA. And I get it. These kids are resentful and they're angry, and there's, it's adverse. You've got this, but so what do you have? What has he been for? Absolutely explicitly. This is AOC. This is all of them. This is that side. Defund the police, right? No bail for violent criminals. By the way, these Democrats in California and in Chicago, they keep voting for these people that are doing this, which is insane. Mass migration, mass subsidies that destroy the middle class, right? And the Democrats are really, they've got a machine, man. They are really well organized. The Republican Party has always been asleep at the wheel. When Trump's not on the ballot, they struggle massively. But what we're seeing in New York, and then again, when you see what's happening in Jay Jones and other things, is we have this hard extremism, these extreme views and these dangerous policies that people will vote for. And, we're seeing that, and you're going to see that in blue states. On the other side, so I've been down here in Texas, right? So in Texas today, we voted 75% to make illegal aliens can't vote in elections. We voted something. It was something like 70% to basically say you can't release violent criminals out on this bail stuff to kind of stop the crap that was happening in some places in Houston and Dallas and some of these big cities. So you have one end where they're trying to curtail that stuff in. And then you've got stuff like, I'm going to tell you, gosh, Virginia is going to go nuts. And first off, so what's Winsome? This isn't a referendum on Trump. She ran away from Trump. So did Youngkin. These were not people that had any full-throated support of Trump. These were bad candidates, but also poorly run campaigns. Virginia, the fact that Jay Jones gets 1.6 million votes, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't really, at that point, what it realizes is it kind of didn't matter what the candidate was in Virginia, right? So,
if he's gonna win, with New York,
he's won. He's won for certain. These races are over.
With Mamdani, I can at least say, look, Cuomo was a terrible candidate to run. I cannot imagine a worse candidate for them to run in an election which they actually wanted to win, right? I guess Cuomo thought this was his comeback. He thought he could beat Mamdani in the primaries, and this was it. And so he kept out any reasonable candidate. I think a generic anybody.
See, I disagree. Look at all these other people. Maybe if you had a really dynamic, charismatic candidate, right, that was a bit transcendent, add up the votes of all the other people, Jacob. It's time to accept reality. Like, listen, this is Mamdani versus MAGA. This is democratic socialism. This is Bernie. This is AOC. This is the Squad. This is Occupy Wall Street. This is Antifa. This is Free Palestine. This is the woke extremism.
Globalize the intifada. Globalize the effing intifada.
From the river to the sea, Jacob. And Democrats have no problem with that, Jacob. They do not call it out.
Hey.
So.
Sorry, my puppy was going into.
And this applies to normie Democrats too, because they keep voting for these people that say these things, have these policies. And again, this isn't new. This has been going on for decades and decades and decades, and it's been getting worse and it's worse and it's worse. Now, the interesting, and on these offbeat elections like 2026 Republicans, quite frankly, Turning Point USA is going to have to show up. I watched those guys talk, and they were very forthright. It was really interesting. They're going to have to get their ducks in a row, and they got to get on the ground, and you got to get the vote out, because the fact of the matter remains, Democrats will vote Democrats, regardless of these insane policies, regardless of the fact that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party let in tens of millions of legal aliens, paid to get them in. We know this through these NGOs, are handing out all this candy money. And look at what's happening in these blue states. They're overwhelmingly showing up pissed off at Trump, and they will vote for anything. They will vote for anything. And they will vote for defund the police, no bail on violent criminals, violence against the enemies, these mass subsidies. No one can even come figure out how they could do this.
Raising the rent. I mean, is there an economically more illiterate, something that economists have more clearly shown to be?
So look at Philadelphia. There's no rent controls, and Philadelphia is it's a big city, very close, somewhere situated. No rent controls, and rent's cheaper there than it is in New York City. Rent controls don't work.
Of course. Everybody knows rent control doesn't work.
It makes it more expensive.
To be fair, people prefer to live in New York City than Philadelphia.
Well, I would I would say that's an absolute good argument or whatever. But I just think the big picture here tonight, which is, man, this division that we have. And then, so here's the other thing that we're going to have. Like people around here say, and I get it. It's like, listen, politics aren't your savior. Listen, I'm a Christian. You're a faithful Jewish man. We believe that. The atheists, the secular atheists, the progressives, that's their religion. Politics is their savior. Because if you take away this belief system that they have built up, I'm not talking about some of the normies in the middle that are still oblivious to still voting. I'm talking about some of this hardcore. Like, we know that wokeism is their value system. That is their religion. That is the church that they worship at. And when you start pulling that away from them, they're not going, like, there's a 35% in this country that is not going anywhere. They will vote. In fact, they want Mamdani. And they want Charlie Kirk dead.
You really think it's 35%?
Oh, I think
Mamdani
looks more like 50-ish%.
Yeah, look at, like, I mean, he won over a majority. It's not like he just barely squeaked out some sort of 43% versus.
Yeah,
whatever.
he won a majority. So, like, I mean, you were saying, Jonathan, that Sliwa messed it up, but he didn't.
Yeah, but like, it's a slim majority if you took out Sliwa.
No. If you add in all the,
do you really think 100% of Sliwas would have gone to Cuomo?
Pull up the decision desk, New York.
I think 95% would. I mean, I don't know any better, but like, I'm just assuming that. But like, even if you even say 75%, it's not a landslide. It's just a slight majority.
So, but here again, so we have a slight majority in one of the economic hubs of the world that just elected an unapologetic democratic socialist.
Yeah, but like, if you think about the ratio of the demographics, of course, that's their interest. Like, this isn't,
right.
Like, billionaires and rich people don't make up 50% of New York City.
And so again, when Charlie was warning, this left-wing populism that really is this more hardcore, like it's gonna break out, and they want free stuff. Like, they're angry. So here's what's true. Like, these young people, they're angry. They feel disenfranchised. The American experiment has not been working for them in many ways. And also, when you believe the woke ideology and all this other sort of stuff, like it all makes perfect sense.
This is mega microcosm in big city demographics, where you end up getting the opposite political movement, right? Where they go for the socialists.
Right, 100%.
And so you get this concentration in these pockets, whereas Trump represents that more nationwide populist sentiment, which just happens to be, again, like, a majority, but not overwhelming.
Well, if you poll Americans, like these there are a lot of 80-20 just common sense, decent things that, we keep talking about all these 80-20 things, the women in sports and all those other sorts of things. And people have had enough of transvestite story hour at the elementary school and the gender reassignment surgeries on young children. Like, you get to these things, but man, I'll tell you, those are weird things, right? Like, they're hard to win, and we're split, and there's a game to it, and there's a lot of hard work and, other things. And so the thing that scares Democrats is the people in the party know, okay, San Francisco, New York, like, that stuff doesn't play when you get into these big, broad national elections. Like, you can win House elections, you can win, like,
even House elections. I don't think it's as bad as people assume.
Well,
like, I don't think the Democrats I mean, yeah, we can expect to lose seats in the House, but there's a reason why they're doing the redistricting in Texas, and it's. I mean, I don't know what
Well,
the
but the
California
Republicans,
vote is going to be.
because the Republicans are always so mealy-mouthed and have no spine. Meanwhile, the Democrats have already gone through and redistricted, and they're going to add 15 seats. Right? Right now, this is like a real game. Like, we know who's in, we know numbers. Like, you got to fight fire with fire right now. And like Indiana's like taking the high road, and we just don't do that. And all this other stuff. It's like bull crap. Like, this stuff like really matters right now.
Massachusetts has 0 Republican representatives.
New Mexico, you go around like it's, but again, but the Republican Party is, you got Trump. Yes, you have this voting bloc. He brings out a bunch of low propensity voters, but they hate Republicans. So like if there's a generic Republican on the ballot, like a Winsome Sears who didn't really like Trump and everything, they're not going to go out and vote for that. They're not going to vote for that. Like it's an interesting, like the Democrats will show up and vote for this stuff. But I mean, tonight it's really kind of Mamdani versus MAGA. This is what you have. I think on a national level, people don't want socialism. They don't want criminals let out on the streets. They don't want mass migration. They don't want these things.
Part of it is that the people who are saying leave New York and Los Angeles and Portland, right?
I don't know, Jacob, right?
Hey, I live in Los Angeles because of my family.
I know, but like, so how does this presumed result in New York impact New York and impact Los Angeles in the near to midterm?
I think there's going to be a lot of people moving to New Jersey. I really do. I think I mean, I really don't know. I really don't know. I guess I was too hopeful. I was too hopeful. I just did not think that with high turnout. I thought low turnout, okay, but with high turnout,
he was winning.
Yeah, but everybody's motivated in the high turnout situation.
Right.
Well, maybe not always.
That many crazy people.
But Jacob, look at what is. Just take a step back, and this is kind of this is like the culmination. But these cities and these Democrats have consistently voted for people and policies that have destroyed their cities, made their families less safe, like literally made their neighborhoods less safe. They can't walk and use parks anymore. They can't go, like, you can't, like, there's parts of San Francisco, like, what's really sad is, like, I think about cities like San Francisco, Portland. These are beautiful, like, amazing American cities, like, incredible. San Francisco is one of my favorite places to visit.
One of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Gorgeous, the food, it was incredible. And then I went back on a business conference there 3 years ago, and it was shocking. It was shocking to me. I was in Portland. It was after the Occupy stuff that had happened. I went there shortly after I went there in 2021. Just city blocks boarded up, the homelessness and the people using drugs and tweaking out on fentanyl and the feces. And I'm just like, Portland, they don't care. Like, so again, man, we are polarized, we are divided. And I do think that, Jonathan, I think, like, if you would talk to people, you have these 80-20 rules, but man, these elections come out, the people that come out and vote, and the particularities of given states and regions and everything else, it's really hard to do that. Like, I know the Republicans, and there is going to be a lot of people that are going to react to this. But at the same time, I actually just thought about it, which is like, okay, he's a socialist. I'm like, how is he any worse than what the San Francisco city government's been doing for 25 years? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you might be right. And now that's going to come to New York. and then
Well,
we'll
New
see
York's
how-
already New York has
Well-
already become very unsafe, but it's going to get, and so any rate, by the way, as is, you can do some things, but you have to be in, like, there's also the governor, like there's other things that have to happen, but obviously they can let criminals back on the streets. They can do all those sorts of things, which are very scary. But again, like Jacob, like this really should, if we take a step back, this shouldn't be shocking to anyone. We've been seeing this happen, and Democrats over and over and over have for decades continued to vote for these things that are dangerous to them, and they don't vote in their best interest.
I'll tell you one thing. Zoran Mamdani made at least 10,000 Jews decide to move to Israel.
Hey, Baruch Hashem.
There is no question in my mind that a minimum of 10,000 Jews, that this election will cause them to leave New York and possibly Los Angeles. I can't wait to hear what my family members have to say about this, because this is really next level. I think everybody in my family was, it won't actually happen. It can't actually happen.
It's actually happening.
Yeah, and so I think it's there's certainly things that are going to be bad. This will shock certain normies into, holy cow, wait a minute, this is, there is some of that will happen. But again, I pointed out in Texas, there were these overwhelming, like, getting rid of all these constitutional amendments. This is my first time voting in Texas with the stuff. They have all these constitutional amendments. Basically, they eliminated a whole bunch of taxation. Like, you can't tax this and you can't tax that. We raised our homestead exemptions for property tax relief. It was like all this, like, get rid of all this tax stuff. And then no illegals, and then violent criminals and sexual predators and stuff can't get bail.
Yeah.
And so you have these, like, it's like that. Those are like these massive demarcations. We are headed into so 50% of New York voted for this. There's no moderation anytime soon coming out of New York. None.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew,
Andrew, did you vote? Are you old enough to vote?
I didn't vote. Voting is against my principles.
Voting is against your principles.
Mhm.
I didn't vote because I knew it wouldn't matter.
Why do you care
I
about-
live in Los Angeles. I've given up on the idea that my vote counts.
My wife and I voted opposite, for and against the tax, the school tax increase, and I still handed in both ballots because I just felt like that would be a dutiful
Yes.
husband and citizenry. Just a +1 in both on both your houses.
You don't have to share because voting is a
Oh, I don't
thing,
mind.
but
I mean, this was like
did you
this
vote
was-
for or against it?
No, I'm against the millage thing. There's so much money going into public schools that I'm like, I don't care if it's another 500 grand or $1 million. Our kids, we do not need more funding from anybody for our education. We're awash with money.
Mhm.
Not a money problem.
Of course, it sounds good for the affluent who are like, yeah, I'm not going to miss that extra $50 in property taxes per, whatever month or year. But I'm like, you know what?
$100,
You got to be done with this at some point. So mine was a protest vote. It's probably going to pass because, no one's going to miss that property tax hike. But I'm like, we got to put a stop to this eventually because you can't just keep throwing money at a problem. And like, our schools are good.
Right.
And like the bad schools don't need more money. The good schools don't need more money. Money's not the problem. I think, we talked about this earlier today when the Fuentes conversation got derailed. in that epic discussion. But yeah, so I get it. I mean, like if I wasn't just being a curmudgeon, I'd probably just be like, yeah, sure, raise the taxes, fine. Let's give more kids iPads and Chromebooks and whatever they want. But it's not going to make a hill of beans difference for our district.
Is school choice happening in Michigan?
I don't know, actually. I'm not. Let's just say that I don't have to worry about school choice, so I don't think about it much. But there is school of choice options. We do have some. I know we have some kids in the nearby districts who come into our schools and stuff, which is cool and whatever. But I don't know that they have like the full like voucher system or anything like that. Michigan, I think, has a pretty strong teachers union and otherwise, Democratic union, blue collar history. I happen to be born here, which is why I live here. But I didn't pick it for the tax advantages having moved from Texas.
Oh, you used to live in Texas.
Your mic is pretty loud when you're not talking. Please. I think it's StreamYard.
Who's that? Me or Lance?
It's Lance. Yeah, I can see on the soundboard.
Okay, I don't see that. Yeah. But I lived in Austin for like 8 years, Lance, and so the bleeding blue heart of Texas, but still Texas nevertheless.
All right, is that better, Jacob?
Much better. I think it creeps up over time when you don't talk.
Yeah, what happens with StreamYard is when you don't talk, it boosts your sound until it catches sound. So when you're not talking, and
it's just feedback
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, I voted against the school tax increases. The first time I voted against the school tax increase in my life. And down in Texas, you've seen it. You talk about being awash in money. They're building the fanciest schools you can build, the very best facilities you could imagine. Yep. Teachers start at $60,000 a year down here. I mean, money is not a problem for the Texas public school system. And
yeah, well, it's all in like in Texas, it's all property tax based.
Yeah,
so that's where they get
we did vote to increase the homestead exemption from $100,000 to $140,000. That got to pass today, so that'll help. That's that's a good chunk of money saved every year if you own a home. So no, it's interesting. So yeah, it's
Did we lose Lance?
No. It's this whole Mamdani thing. I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I think a lot of people are expecting it will on a national level. Certain normies will be like, okay, we can't allow that to come here. But at the same time, I think it's already baked in the cake. We are the point, like this stuff has been happening in these big blue cities, and I don't know that this is much worse than a lot of the stuff we've seen going on a lot of other places.
Honestly, it makes me think of the fact that, with in the census, and I didn't realize it until people started pointing it out. And then I was like, oh yeah, this actually works. Illegal immigrants get counted just like citizens for the purpose of how many seats you get.
Yeah, the 2020 census was
Democrats. Just like they were importing slaves so that they could have more people who can't vote, but give them representatives. Just maintained that thing, and so in Los Angeles, California gets more districts because we have such a large illegal population, which should explain to you why they want to be sanctuary cities.
And in response to Trump winning, okay, in 2016, they got their act together. And when they got their chance in 2020, that's why they opened this border. The NGOs were flying, and that's why they got tens of millions of people in here. It is intentional what's happened in Western Europe and what's happened in the United States. And there's a reason. Why would they put all these, so there is a chance to go amend, and Trump's started to do it. They need to do it. They need to get rid of the fraudulent 2020 census and get some of this reapportionment done. The thing is, you can't like go arrest all the illegal aliens, but why are Democrats, I think Elon hit the nail on the head, why are they fighting so hard to keep funding the healthcare for illegal immigrants and all this stuff that they're really, they say they're doing it for the ACA, which is bullshit. They know they've got to keep funding these illegal immigrants. If you cut off the spigot, SNAP benefits, healthcare, and all this other sort of stuff, they'll self-deport.
Well, I mean, I think I think most of them aren't really on benefits. They really aren't. They're here to work. I mean, I've told this story a million times, and I'm kind of surprised because looking at this map, Texas plus Florida, that's 2.5 million. California and New York, that's 2.5 million. It doesn't look well. I mean, 400,000 in Illinois, 120,000 in Michigan, 300,000 in Massachusetts, the state that has 0 representatives, 450,000 in New Jersey.
So isn't it a question though of like where they can vote?
No, it's
Easily?
so the state gets apportioned. The state gets apportioned the number of people.
Oh,
And
from the census numbers.
And
From
those
the census
are,
numbers.
And those,
Oh, like
and those
heartbeats.
numbers are right.
And then their legislature makes a map
Well, that's
for
good.
that state.
That's good for the Republicans then, in at least in Texas and Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, in
that's
aggregate.
why it's not as lopsided as I thought it was.
Well,
Right.
and that map is we are totally undercounting the amount of illegal immigrants. And I don't disagree that a number of them come to work, but when you flood the field with 25, 30 million, whoever, a massive amount flooded in, and if only 15 million of them or 10 million of them are getting benefits, that's a lot of people, Jacob. Like, illegal aliens should not get a penny of anything, because who's really paying for all this? Like, again, these democratic socialists, these socialist policies, what do they crush? They crush the working class. It's always the case. The middle class and the working class and the lower, it absolutely crushes people that are actually trying, that do work. The hardworking kind of American absolutely gets just decimated by this stuff.
What's crushing the middle class the most, or the working class the most these days?
Well, so this is
one word. This is a quiz. I mean, I have an answer in mind. One word. What do you think it is? Starts with an I, ends in nation.
What?
Immigration?
Oh, sorry. No, wrong rhyme. I think it's
inflation.
I think it's inflation, 100%.
Well, I was thinking prices, right? So
yes,
for myself,
prices.
which is, and that's the justifiable resentment that's happening on the left side, right? That's what MAGA is, like, just going to the grocery store. Like, the salary I make is a large salary. I'm CFO of an Association of Christian High Schools. It is shocking to me how little money I have left at the end of each month. And I don't look at what I wear. I shop at Costco. I wear the same 5 shirts and the same stuff. I don't buy clothes. We don't go on vacations. Like, I'm not exorbitantly spending money, and it is insane how much it costs to live. Insane. And then the healthcare costs, right? So I'm paying for my healthcare costs. You know, obviously I work for a company and I'm blessed that they pick up 78% of the premium, but it's still a lot. But my deductible's high and then I still have to pay after that. So it's like you pay all this money and then you still like have to pay all this stuff. Like it's the economy, stupid. It's the price of milk, the price of gas. It's, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are you an empty nester now, Lance?
For a little bit, we have my stepson's going to move back in with us here in January.
Is he gonna pay rent? You don't have to answer that. But
Well, no. So no. So here's the deal. So he's on a spectrum. I would say he's a late bloomer. We need to help him. But I've talked about this, which is like, and he wants to do this. He doesn't want to live with his parent. Like he wants to do this. But I'm like, we have to teach him how to be independent because I've said I'm not going to have a 25-year-old in the basement playing video games. I won't do that to him as a man. He's got to learn how to do that. That being said,
make him stream. Make him learn to be a YouTuber. My 10-year-old like is really interested in doing this, and I'm like, well, I'll teach you how to like set up your setup, but
you know what?
I'll be damned if you get on YouTube and start streaming gaming stuff as a 10-year-old, even if they would let you.
Yes.
I know they exist. Listen, my son will probably make more money than me in the next 2 years, just given his constitution, everything about him. Anyway, I ask because like I've got 4 kids under 10. I mean, I live in Michigan, so it's kind of the middle of the road. But like everything is expensive, man. Everything's expensive, and like, I'm not price sensitive to everything, but I can see it, and in the aggregate, it starts to creep up, and I feel like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was not like this. But like at the same time, I couldn't tell you what 10 years ago a dozen eggs cost. But I know if you get the fancy farm ones today, they're, pushing $10.
Jonathan, go back to 2019 pre-COVID. Prices.
I can't anymore. Yeah.
But prices were not that bad. And then the other thing, like the biggest scam ever run, I'll tell you, man, the progressives are such good marketers. They are so good. The Inflation Reduction Act, where they printed all that money and unleashed all that spending out, again, economics 101 exploded prices. And then, of course, gas prices multiply because of all the shipping costs. And they wanted the expensive gas and all this other sort of stuff.
Well, now the gas prices are down, though, quite a bit.
Which should help. So, again, if we get in some competition. So, one of the things Trump has to do, which is it's very difficult. They're trying to basically, Scott Bessent had a really interesting conversation before the election on the two-way. You've heard of the two-way app with Mark Halperin and Dan Turrentine, who's a Democrat, and then Sean Spicer. They have a community where they let people come on. They're trying to get people to talk. It's kind of a TLCS sort of thing in the political space. And anyway, he was on there. And basically, we have got ourselves in a mess. We offshored all of our manufacturing, right? We've created this total service economy situation where
that's old news now, right?
But dependency on China, trying to reset things like they're trying to go through this, but they have got to attack prices. So one of the things that and again, this goes to the Trump administration. People do not care that you found like really at the end of the day. Peace in the Middle East matters to some. They don't care. I can't. My groceries are too expensive. Right? Wonderful. You stop a war. Great. Whatever. Don't give them any money. And what are you doing for us here domestically? Because every week you go to the grocery. Every week I go to the grocery store, Jonathan, and it's just the two of us. And I shop pretty frugally. And I'm like, I bought nothing, and I'm paying $200 before I get out of this stinking grocery store for 2 of us, or something like that. Now that can last a long time, and it's sure. So I'm with you. It's inflation, it's prices, and so again, I can understand why a young person, 30-something years old in Brooklyn, voted for Mamdani. Right? He's
Yeah,
promising cheaper. He's promising them
but
cheaper stuff or free stuff.
I guess. I mean, I wouldn't take the bait because I think I can see 2 or 3 steps beyond that promise and realize that like that's not a sustainable promise. But like, you know, and maybe
But
I'm
they don't
overestimating.
understand it. They don't understand it though.
Yeah.
So I'll actually brag a tiny bit, because if I have achieved anything in this life, this might be it.
Uh-oh. Is it a tweet?
It is a tweet.
That's
It is
tweet.
a tweet. So Jay Bhattacharya, you may have heard his name, one of
I
the
heard
few
of
people in the administration that I have any hope for, was complaining about Obamacare. And as an MD PhD economist, he I have to defer to his understanding and knowledge, but I decided to tweet at him. And anybody who's known me, Antonio, knows exactly who Charles Phelps and Stephen Parenti are, because 8 years ago, when we had the first Trump administration, Stephen Parenti was nominated to be the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services for Policy and Evaluation, right? So basically the brains in the thing.
Okay.
And I got so excited. There was a discussion at AEI where Charles Phelps spoke, and they referred to Stephen Parenti as he who must not be named. That transcript has 0 mentions of Stephen Parenti, because they were talking about actual, real reform of the healthcare system, right? And Stephen Parenti's nomination never got a vote. No articles ever written about the book that he and Charles Phelps had written that came out in 2016 or 2017, which was about how to revolutionize the healthcare industry. New York Times, nobody talked about it. His nomination timed out after 2 years. And the reason that was given for not giving him even a hearing, a confirmation hearing, and certainly not a vote, was he was supposedly too close to the health insurance industry, and that's why they wouldn't give him a vote. Well, I decided to ask Jay Bhattacharya. I didn't think he would necessarily see it. Any chance you are going to take a serious look at the work of Charles Phelps and Stephen Parenti? I get a reply from Dr. Bhattacharya himself. Senpai noticed me. They are excellent health economists, which led me to ask, and their recommendations for reforming the tax structure. I mean, if their recommendations, they wrote a book on reforming the health insurance. You can go on YouTube and look up Charles Phelps AI reconnecting healthcare to economics. It has 1,000 views. All 1,000 are from me over the past 8 years, telling people to go look at this video. I'm not even joking, right? Because very simple ideas that I, as a health, so I as a health insurance agent, I had to be a member of the National Association of Health Underwriters. Basically, had to, right? And they I am sure were part of making sure Charles Phelps' nomination did not go through, which went to my pocket. I mean, it helped me, and that's why financially they were doing it. But if this is simple reform that the Trump administration could do if they wanted to. Now, I don't actually have hopes that it'll happen, but this could pass and it would actually make real differences. And it would really change things for the better. And it's one of those things that it's actually a solution, because it's taking a bunch of money out of places it shouldn't be going to. All the people who are, using the money to lobby Congress instead of it's basic rent seeking, right? But when Charles Phelps was when Stephen Parenti was nominated, I was like, oh my God, something might actually happen. And then his nomination didn't go through. And now Jay Bhattacharya, I mean, he's in a position where if he actually wants to push this, and I am foolish enough to actually believe he is a faithful Christian. People say that, and Jan God, I mean, what can I say to Fauci got a pardon and did nothing wrong, but Jay Bhattacharya is the director of the National Institutes of Health. Come on.
No, listen. I'll tell you, there's a lot of. It's still feckless, the Congress, but we have got to tackle. This is something I agree with Democrats on, although they don't really mean it, because, like as he pointed out, one of the things that's really, if people had any idea, the state and local tax, like for example, you should not be able to reduce that for your federal income taxation in these blue states. They run up SALT is stealing money from people with low tax rates or red states to fund these blues, to get rid of that. They have bailed out themselves left and right. And by the way, the rhinos let them do it, right? They're allowing them to do these things. And you have all these bailouts of these horrific blue state decisions. And, all that stuff just feeds on top of itself. And again, I understand why people who are left leaning or whatever are angry, because we're angry on the right side too.
I have to say, like I said to PVK earlier today, I was very surprised how many people in red states think that money is going from red states to blue states. And when you look at the figures, it's absolutely the opposite. There is large amounts of money being transferred from blue states to red states. There's no denying that. It's a river.
Okay, so in what way? I know what you're gonna say.
I mean, look at the revenues. Look at federal incomes and expenditures. I
live in Michigan and get all my income from California and or New York companies. For instance, I mean, maybe that's not what you're thinking of, but like that's.
And so, yes, I knew that was going to be what the situation would be. You already get the benefit of having those massive economic engines in your state. And yes, it's so, for example, those economic engines help other folks in other states. But it is also true to say, Jacob, that they aren't, they're taking in our tax dollars, but they're also spending way over what they're taking in. So a lot of this is deficit spending too.
It is, but the spending is being done more in the red states. That's the thing. Huge amounts of spending, including on military bases, including on veterans benefits, Medicaid. Like um, there's a lot of federal money going to red states.
Absolutely. And so
A-
again, one of the things that's making us insolvent is, and these are the hard things to do, like um, we have got to get Medicaid under control. Well, part of the reason, when you look at Parentes and some of these simple things that they've recommended, right? That we could like have some common sense and bring some competition into the market. You know what? Didn't he want to just like get rid of state, like get rid of the state limitations and allow nationwide the ability for health? Like, if
oh
I
no no
understand,
no no no! This is you have not heard of this reform. This is reform
Parenti?
nobody talks about. But I just want to show, right? So state balance of payment per capita, right? So it's how much per capita you pay into the federal government and how much you receive from the federal government, right? So New Mexico, the average person is receiving $10,000 of federal spending, right? When you compare how much they pay in taxes versus the benefits that they're receiving, Texas, they're up to $1,000 per person, but it's still in the red, right? Whereas New York and Minnesota and Illinois and California, it's deficits.
Well, so here's the deal. I'm very interested in understanding all of this and what statistics behind it and everything. So this is one map, and we can. But so I am very interested in that. But that I also know, and you know too, that have been massive bailouts going towards those states for different things. Now, what you really pointed at too, two big ones was our California and New York, right?
Yeah.
Deep Blue.
Yeah.
Well, those are the biggest economic engines in the world, two of the biggest economic engines in the world, which is going to skew those sorts of things. And also when you talk about the number of people and
Yeah,
so on.
but I mean, they are the ones who are paying the tax.
But you're talking to a guy that thinks that we should cut out 60% of the federal budget.
I understand. It's just, look, when I was traveling, especially I was surprised by how much, especially VA facilities, are contributing to the economies of the places I was seeing. The economic, I was really awakened to economic realities that I did not like. We had spoken about it. I remember when I was working on my master's of public administration, like I got into a big screaming match with one of my professors because his definition of government, of good government, right? So here we're in a master's of public administration class, and so the big question is, how do you define what is good government and what is bad government? And his definition, which he didn't even want to debate, was good government is the government that redistributes money from the rich to the poor. That was the definition in the class, right? And I was like, you've lost your mind. If that is your definition of like how we are going to go on, right? And it wasn't just his; it was our textbook, right? They defined redistribution from the rich to the poor as good government.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So one of the things I'd point out. So pull up that map.
Okay.
So Nebraska has a big excess, right? Very small state where I grew up, mainly rural, so on and so forth. And so ultimately there's a couple things that would make that up. Probably farm subsidies, right, would be a thing that would do
Yep.
that. We can talk all day long about that. The second biggest thing is you talked about a military base. So the Strategic Air Command, like why did they put, so like, for example, when 9/11 happened, George Bush ended up in Omaha, Nebraska. My elementary school was a mile and a half as the crow flies from the end of the runway of the Offutt Air Force Base Strategic Air Command. And they have it there because we're in the middle of the country. Like, you want to be safe, you put the stuff in the far middle so people flying in or whatever could do that. And so it is a massive military base in a very small populated state. So that would look as if something like, well, when you say, it's like, well, there's this military base that's here, right? And Nebraska's getting these excess payments. Well, part of the situation why you have that military base there is it's strategically the best place for the United States to have that military base, for example, right? So between those sorts of things, and we could argue about farm subsidies. And
Yeah, but they could have also had it in Minnesota, you know?
Well, yes, they could have, but they didn't. And so you can say, I'm just saying there's a lot playing with that. But also, I immediately knew when you have your two biggest economic engines, I knew it was going to be New York City and I knew it was going to be California, because that's necessarily, if you're going to talk about some of those things coming back and forth, that's how
the money that's flowing into the federal government overwhelmingly is coming. I was actually surprised Delaware is lower than it is, because there's a lot of
but when you have
corporations supposedly.
so the really curious thing is, the one that sticks out like a thumb to me is Minnesota.
Yeah,
Really interesting.
I think it's the insurance companies.
Okay.
Minnesota is the home of a lot of insurance companies.
Yeah, no, it is.
And they pay a lot of federal taxes.
But then the other thing is, and so you'd be making the case for me too, which is a lot of that, when you have New York and California have some of the largest economies in the globe, right? Worldwide. And if you're going to pay corporate tax, that's going to go. It's going to skew. Like you got to throw those outliers. You literally have to throw those two outliers out in terms
you can't throw. I mean, look, California and New York. That part of it really is that the Democrats are so committed to redistribution of wealth that there's a lot of wealthy Democrats who want to pay taxes that go to people who are poorer. And there's a reason why the federal poverty level, it's the craziest thing when I first found this out, the federal poverty level in Los Angeles is the same as federal poverty level anywhere in the United States, other than Alaska and Hawaii. Right. So if you're living in Kansas, if you're living in Nebraska, if you're living in North Dakota, you have the same poverty level as Los Angeles and New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's not by the way, that's not surprising to me, particularly given, well, one, when you have these small population bases, it doesn't take a lot. Secondly, when we've seen so if you drive across Nebraska or Kansas, you see very hollowed out towns.
I think you might be misunderstanding me when I mean by federal poverty level. I don't mean percentage of people who are poor. I mean how much. I could look up the. Let me look up the FPL for 2025. So FPL for 2025, all around the United States, is for an individual, an income. If you had an income of $15,650 in Los Angeles, you are considered poor. And that is the exact same what if you're in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah.
How the rent in Los Angeles, you cannot get a an apartment for less than $800.
No.
I
That's
don't
what I
even
mean.
think you can get it for $800 in Los Angeles. $800 a month, right? So to have the same amount be what is considered poor, the same income be what is considered poor, a family of two earning $21,000 in Los Angeles, $22,000 in Los Angeles is not considered poor. I don't understand how a family of two can live in Los Angeles or in New York on $22,000.
No disagreement there. And the other thing is which is this whole explosion of the federal government, right? And all of these federal programs. So how this would work out, by the way. So this would even make the case, which would be this. So if I would accept this, and this is true, if I'm California and I'm New York, and really what Republicans would do would basically eliminate a lot of federal funding and so on and so forth. They'd be richer for it. And then they could have Christmas all day and give out a whole heck of a lot more of their programs that they want to give out in their state. Correct?
The thing is, there's so much money, and this was part of what I saw. You know, we don't think of federal highway, and we don't think of the post office as subsidies to red states, but paving those highways, fixing those highways, keeping them in full repair, that is a lot of money.
It is, and ultimately, in terms of trucking and transportation and getting goods from California to where people make money and back and forth, like there are things, if you would talk to, like, so that's really we need to have the conversation, which is, okay, what are the things that our federal government shouldn't, like, what should we be doing? Like, what are the things as the United States of America we've decided to join ourselves in this union of states, right?
Yeah.
What are the things that should we be doing? Should we have a national military, right? Should we have roads that enable commerce across the entirety of the United States that hopefully should benefit everyone? Those are great sorts of things. That, okay, what are the things that we think are the things that that's a national level thing, right? Whereas, like, for example, the Department of Education should be completely eliminated. States can go ahead and decide to educate as they decide to educate.
Yeah, but when I visited Father Eric in North Dakota, right? The highway that's going through and the post office location that's there, that's benefiting North Dakota. It's not benefiting New York or Los Angeles. That is a transfer of wealth, and it's a large transfer of wealth.
Well, and
when you look at how much money.
So what you're asking is, which is a good question, which is like, okay, from a national perspective, should we have a mail system? No, and if you're like, I don't think North Dakota. It's like, I don't want to pay for North. Like, so those are good questions. And by the way, Jacob, if you want to start, and nowadays actually, with all these other carriers and everything else, and the post office service has been stupid and like allowing these other people to take advantage of them, everything else. But those are good questions to ask on a national level.
See, the thing is,
we have that.
Part of it is, and this is me. I grew up as a Republican in Los Angeles, and I didn't understand what was going on, right? But part of it is, I don't want our country to fall apart, and our country would fall apart if we didn't have the massive wealth transfer that really the post office is, and these roads are, and the bases, the military bases, and the federal prisons.
So when you talk about when you think, but if we would go back, I would just say again, we have these massive economic generators, some of the largest in the globe.
Right.
Okay? Those things, maybe less so now for the mail, but at one point, like Sears and Roebuck, let's just say the mail catalog, everything else, it was in Chicago. Like having that allowed these massive companies, which create these massive revenues, which get taxed for the federal government, which is part of that transfer into the federal government or whatever. Like you also have to bake in those costs, Jacob, to basically say,
right. I mean, if we decided that we didn't care about the rest of the country, we would certainly, California would definitely have a smaller economy, right? But the way the river is flowing, right? And yes, we're making the river of commerce flow through. I mean, a third of the imports of the United States comes in through the port of Los Angeles, which is 20 miles south of me, and I got to fly over it with
California has massive economic advantages. First off, all that coastline along the Pacific coast.
Yeah.
Right? It also has mountains, and it has everything from deserts to fertile farmland to everything.
California could be an independent nation if it wanted to.
And so could Texas, by the way, because I live literally like 10 minutes away from. I'm down in basically about 15 minutes north of Galveston, Jonathan. So
what state could not? Well, let me change the phrasing.
Other than
how many states could be independent economies?
New York, Florida, California, and Texas. They are
Illinois,
big enough.
Michigan could be. We grow a lot of apples. We got a lot of fresh water.
That's what I was actually wondering about. Do you have access to one of the oceans?
Yes, we do.
Michigan
actually.
does.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Through.
Now there's a lot of political actors
right?
between us and the oceans that could cut that off, and they could start wars. But
well, that's the thing. You know, if we fell apart, it would be things would be a lot worse for us.
Sure.
Now because of the river system, so Omaha, which is where the consultants point this out, obviously you can get on the river. We can get all the way down to the ocean on the river, so we can do that. It takes a long time, but there was a lot of river transport, and then also the railroads in our central location ended up being a place that allowed certain things to happen.
Yeah, Louisiana would really win in a situation like that. Louisiana could stand there and start
taxing the egress ingress. Yeah,
but like Nebraska's sitting on one of the largest water aquifers, the Ogallala Aquifer. So again, we have water, fertile farmland, right? Tough weather, but I think a lot of states. But then to go back to that, like at that point, certain states would have to be fairly agrarian, right? So when it was agrarian, it was a heck of a lot easier.
California's agrarian too, though. I mean, everything's agrarian.
California grows a lot of stuff.
Right. California has everything. It's got mountains. It's got deserts. It's got fertile farmland. It has all that ocean front. I mean, there's a reason why
we produce oil.
100%.
So does Ohio, though.
Yeah. So does Kansas, by the way, has
Texas.
Kansas has.
I am glad we have the interstate highway system, despite the fact that really it's a
thanks to Hitler.
What?
Thanks to Hitler.
I would just say,
It is a massive exchange, like moving wealth into around our country, and I'm fine with that. It's just very strange to me that people in the red states imagine that they're sending money to Los Angeles. They're not.
So like, well, no. So I'm not. I am not. When you break this all down in things that are for example, I mentioned the Strategic Air Command. That's a massive military base with tons of defense spending. Budget goes there because those are things that are there. Also, you've got. I'm not conceding that, but I would say these things you're pointing out for example, the post office, the interstate system. I'd love to start looking at, okay, how much are those in the annual federal budget versus some of these other massive programs that until you like when we've got Social Security, Medicaid, some of the big ticket items, right? That when we look at this, defense spending actually is a big ticket item. I'm open to the fact that we could be smarter there, but some of those things that you're pointing out that are expenses that actually there is a great derived benefit to those major economic hubs, and they always had those.
I'm trying to find the Medicaid, which I think is actually probably the biggest federal thing, is a map to show the federal Medicaid assistance percentage in each state for Medicaid.
Well, percentage. So
no,
let's not worry about
percentage. I'm looking. Yeah. I wanted. Let me see if I can find the spending by.
Because I bet West Virginia, for example, kind of up towards your neck of the woods there, Jonathan.
So this is Medicaid per capita expenditures 2022. So California per capita expenditure is all 8,500, but in North Dakota 13,000, Minnesota almost 13,000, South Dakota almost 10,000.
Well, it's per capita on expenditures. What is
it's per capita expenditures? But is this federal? I think it is. Well, federal is matching funds. I wish I had better. I genuinely am looking up. Let's see. This is the share of the state budget spent on Medicaid, which gets matched by the federal government. New York's pretty high. Yeah, I would have to dig in. These numbers I don't know as well.
But also, again, I'm kind of a numbers guy because I'm a CFO and I've lived in Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. How you build that base off what you're comparing, like you also got to kind of figure out what's really behind these numbers and so on and so forth. So from my perspective, I think you would think this from a lot of people would be, hey, what's right is right, even if it isn't to the best benefit of my state. What's right is right. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I'm really curious what the per capita expenditures would be. So,
I mean, New York is high because most of that state looks like the rest of the hollowed out Midwest. And
so
if you look at the metro area of New York, it's so densely populated that there's just bound to be a lot of people who are going to fall into that cohort. So yeah, does that make sense?
The thing is, you have to understand that getting someone healthcare in Los Angeles is a fourth of the cost of getting someone healthcare in a rural area. because doctors want to live here,
Okay.
and it's
So that's-
impossible to get doctors who want to live in Alaska, and the amount of transportation you have to do for specialists, and how much you have to subsidize federally the hospitals. There is, look, getting a doctor to live in Los Angeles. Half my cousins are doctors. There's plenty of Jewish doctors in Los Angeles and New York.
No, that's
There
it's
are
a real.
getting a doctor to move to bumfuck. Sorry,
BFE.
yeah, North
No,
Dakota.
there's a rural healthcare crisis, because again, as we had to drain these massive corporate farms, we had to drain out of those rural areas.
But it's all
Trying to get
relative.
people to come to.
It's somewhat relative, though, right? I mean, you can live high on the hog in North Dakota as a doctor, and there's got to be some segment of the population that's interested in doing that.
I
Yeah, if
have
you
a
grow up, like,
cousin
if you're
who lives in Kentucky, and his marriage is on the rocks because of it.
Well, but that's because he lives in Kentucky. That's
that's
different. That's different.
So the people who want to do that is if you grew up in, like, if you are a country person and you grew up kind of out in a rural area, and that's kind of what you and your wife is also on board with that.
There's a market for everything. But you know what? If I want to go to Los Angeles and be a doctor, I got to compete with all your fucking cousins. And
I am telling you,
I might not be living high on the hog in Los Angeles as a pediatrician, versus a dermatologist.
The amount of money you have to pay a doctor to go to rural areas is so much higher than Los Angeles and New York.
And so I get
So
that.
much.
So here's the thing. So as we
But on an
cut a
absolute
lot of this-
basis, is it that much higher?
What do you mean? It's worse on an absolute basis,
No, on an
because
absolute basis,
it's
like-
higher costs to live in New York than it is. So if you're living
I
in
know.
Los Angeles, your costs are higher. Your income is lower. If you're living in Kentucky, you're receiving a
lower.
lot more money,
Yes.
and your costs are lower.
Right. So it's a better.
So
it can
it's
be a better.
very attractive, and it's impossible to get doctors, and we're still not doing it, despite the fact you could get paid twice as much. I have a friend who commutes to Fresno as a doctor from San Diego. That is a 5-6 hour drive, and he commutes.
And so part of the thing is people still choose to live in California, and there's a reason for it. It's a spectacular state.
Oh,
No, seriously.
listen. I mean, but
You got the
Kentucky is not the
ocean, you
worst
can go-
place in the world. So, like, what? I mean,
Well, for a person like me, absolutely, I agree. Because I can't believe that God called me here, and it was the case. I can't. I live in the fourth.
I mean, your
largest
hat
city in the
says
United
Kentucky,
States.
right? It's Kentucky
No,
chicken.
Kansas City. There you go. Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I'm just kidding.
But I live up, a suburb of the fourth largest city in the United States. Right.
Yeah.
I can't believe that happened to me. But people choose to live there because literally you can surf in the morning and go up to Truckee, and you can be skiing in the afternoon. Like it's in. There's a reason why they have that massive advantage.
Look, and when it comes down to it, like, I mean, people want a nightlife, and especially if you're earning the income of a doctor, you want to travel, and you want an international airport somewhere near you, and you want to have friends who also went to college and can have discussions with you about stuff. you know. And if you're Jewish,
Well,
you want to
so,
go to
no.
synagogue, and you want your kids to go to synagogue.
Oh, there it is.
I would no. Here's so. By the way, here's something that is actually happening now. I never thought about this in my life, but now that I've become Orthodox, there are actually certain places in this country that, like, I could be up to 3.5 or 4 hours away from a nearest Orthodox church. You know, so that's So again, if you would start to think about those things, what I will push back on you is like. To act like you can't run into smart people in Kentucky or
I
some of
didn't say
those
you
places.
can't run into.
No,
I'm
but there aren't
saying
lots of women in your community that you
when
can
you have
stimulating conversations.
look, when you have social circles and you have universities and you have, I mean, look, there's a difference between the social life in Boston than there is in
No doubt.
what-
There,
Careful.
there are people.
Grand Rapids. Come on.
Hey, why do you think I'm here socializing virtually with a Los Angeles Jew? I mean,
If you were in
figure it
Boston,
out.
if you were in Boston, there would be a lot more PhDs in per capita for you to interact with. I'm just saying.
No, no doubt. No doubt. But they act
IYI.
as if like that you can't have stimulating, good conversations. But no, it's a choice. But again, I grew up. I had the best of both worlds. I went to a rural school in high school, yet we were only 30 minutes away from downtown Omaha. So we had all the malls and the movie theaters and all the rest, all that stuff you wanted. But you were still out in a very kind of rural school, which was kind of nice. I got the best of both worlds.
But I mean,
Always dream,
we're
Jacob.
talking
My dream was to
economics.
move to Southern California someday.
Look,
I can
when
never
we're,
afford
we're
it.
talking economics and we're talking about what is the cost for the federal government, right? What does Medicare have to pay for a urologist in and it's so much more. And then you have the Veterans Administration, right? That's providing a hospital out in the middle of nowhere for these veterans.
So again, when we look at the overall budget now, in terms of the one thing you would find, I think for most people, is support for veterans, trying to take care of them as much as we can. I also think when you mentioned this, where this is at, which is if you basically almost eliminated the federal income tax, where I would almost be at a level of almost eliminating the federal income tax, but cutting a whole bunch of those. I think even small states like Nebraska or Kentucky, they can figure those things out. But then it'll be up to them to figure those things out, and I think they could.
Apparently, the worst place is Washington, D.C. That's where the federal government spends the most per person.
Really?
But that's because there's no state equivalent. That's why.
Right.
But in most states, the state pays half of it, the federal government pays half of it, or whatever the percentage is. But in Washington, D.C., there's no thing. The communist one.
The communist one, Tayo. You can
Yeah.
pour one out.
Socialist. Let's
The first airplane has hit.
Oh,
Too
all right.
soon.
Well,
Not too soon.
I'm gonna head out early work day tomorrow.
Thank you, Lance. Yeah,
Always fun, Jacob.
isn't it? Tayo, we haven't spoken in forever. Why aren't you jumping on, Tayo?
Yeah, talk about your UK trains.
Yeah, and the socialists, the London School of Economics is one of the problems in this world. It really is.
I almost tried to go there once.
Go there as in go there for schooling?
Mm-hmm. I did a semester in London, And
I automatically write off anybody. There's a rabbi that
I was
that Yosef really likes,
19 years old.
who has a master's degree from the London School of Economics, and I refuse to listen to him at all because I'm like, he's a communist. And
Hey,
Yosef's like, you can't say that about everyone just because they went to the London School of Economics, and I disagree.
It sounded elite and prestigious at the time, and I was not wrong.
It is very elite. It is very prestigious. And if you're a communist, going there would be very good for your career.
I mean, what other options do I have? A liberal or a fascist? It's like, pick one.
Yeah. Okay. How many people are watching? Why are people watching?
8.
There's 8 people watching, and one of them's Tayo, and he doesn't like me very much, despite the fact his shoes are still over there. If Lucky eats your shoes, I'm not paying for them, Tayo. Sorry. And I would not be surprised if Lucky eats your shoes. He's been eating a lot of shoes.
So is this when do we know if this is actually really bad for the Jewish community in New York?
When he's sworn in, and if he actually, like, the question is, once he gets in, AOC, right? She talks a big game, but when it comes down to it, the votes, she hasn't made any of the egregious votes that people were like, oh, if she really hates Israel, she's gonna. That's on a national thing. And frankly, the fact is that the people who are, look, the Jews who get assaulted on a regular basis in New York are the Hasidic Jews, and they're overwhelmingly not Zionists,
right?
But they're the ones.
Nobody knows that.
Walking down the street get their, well, Mamdani does.
Well, okay, but they're identifiable, and people are ignorant enough to just assume they're as Zionistic as
the people who attack them. Yes, the question is, will the police protect them?
I don't know that the police actually have much higher consciousness of this than anybody else.
The police in New York do.
Well, I would hope so.
Well, and it's not a question of like being conscious. Like it's a matter of is the police, like, if a Jew walking down the street, a Hasidic Jew walking down the street gets assaulted, are the police going to protect that Jew?
Yeah, that should be an independent question of whether or not there's a consciousness of their Zionistic status.
Yeah, it should be
whatever. It
should be. The question becomes, does the mayor of New York, and that's virtually that's what he has control over.
The commander-in-chief of the police. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, he claims he's gonna keep the commissioner, who's currently the commissioner of police in New York. And he, like, well, I mean, we'll see what actually happens. But when people are willing to vote for somebody like Mamdani, that it's not a is this good for the Jews or bad for the Jews? It's is this good for New York or bad for New York? Look, the Jews can move to New Jersey. The only Jews who really, really want to stay in New York, in Crown Heights, because the Rebbe was very opposed to white flight. So when with the whole busing thing, a lot of Jews started moving out of New York. The Rebbe was opposed to that, and they stayed put in Crown Heights.
Mhm.
When it became a largely black neighborhood, and that's why the Chabadniks and that's why we ended up with the Crown Heights riots, et cetera, et cetera. But look, I seriously think there's plenty of people who tonight are going to be thinking about moving to Israel. There's going to be plenty of people who are thinking about moving to New Jersey or somewhere or Florida.
Mhm.
And I wonder if somebody like Bill Ackman, right,
Mhm.
is like if this is a wake up call for him, because given the state of electronics, there's not really any reason why the New York Stock Exchange needs to be the New York Stock Exchange.
It's in New Jersey already.
I didn't know that.
Well, at least I think a lot of the exchanges are actually located in New Jersey now,
Okay.
and that's because of the electronic trading. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no physical. The pit trading is ceremonial at this point. It's not really doesn't really matter. So yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, Ken Griffin moved out of Chicago and moved down to Florida, like founder and CEO of Citadel Capital.
Okay.
For the same reasons, like maybe not Jewish reasons per se, but the taxes and just Chicago politics.
Look, there, especially in COVID, accelerated this.
Mm-hmm.
We are increasingly like, yeah, the people in the red states get mad at the people who are telecommuting to California and come with and buy a huge house and have all the money, but that's distributing the economy in ways.
For sure.
Ultimately, this might actually be really good for
No,
get out of the cities.
I mean, I spend money in Grand Rapids that does not
What-
originate from Michigan economy per se.
Yeah.
Comes out of California and New York, but that's only incidental, as we're
What do you mean
seeing.
it's only incidental?
I mean, like, it's just because those companies were founded there,
Oh,
started
the
there,
fact that they
headquartered
are.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing special. I mean, sure, San Francisco has some schools, institutions that have had historically smart people coming out of them, like MIT, Harvard, whatever. There's other places, but I mean, at this point now, the diaspora of tech is such that, well, I mean, it's kind of weird because you
The
end up.
real question is travel. The real question is travel,
Okay.
because ultimately you want people in the same room. There's a reason why people like Elon Musk are so opposed to telecommuting.
Yeah, that's fair, but I would say that there there are some companies out there who are exemplar of remote always and everywhere and are successful, and there's some companies who are like never remote and they're successful. Now they have more legacy behind them, right? Because that was the default a long time ago. And then other companies are in this hybrid mode right now where I think it's like, you know what? We'll get together every month or two for a couple of days for big strategic decisions. We'll get to, I mean, it's like, it is surprising how efficient it can be to get human beings in a room hashing things out. And sometimes that just means, you know what? We're going to meet at the hotel near the airport in Atlanta because that's a hub. So, it's not sexy.
Yeah.
But we're all going to be in this hotel conference room for a couple of days, and we're going to figure this shit out, and we're going to hash it out, and then we're going to all go back home, and we're there and back in 48 hours. Now, for the front line and most people in the company, that's not important. It's important for the people that have to make decisions, to get in front of each other, have that, make the eye contact, do all that kind of stuff. But it's I think both are overrated. I think actually the hybrid model is appropriate, and the travel thing, it matters. But for most people who live in most cities with an airport, to get to a hub city,
Yeah.
again, it's not sexy, but even the person from New York City or Los Angeles can get to Atlanta or Denver in a couple hours, and everyone just gets together and you can be there for 24, 48 hours and then be done.
Yeah.
And it does accelerate camaraderie. You build trust, you make decisions, and then you move forward, and then most of your days are going to be.
The real question for me becomes, okay, bumping into each other at St. Monica's church, right?
So this is outside of work. This is more of what, like just social
look,
interaction. Well,
yeah.
I mean, the thing is though but then you have that with your local community, right? So like, if I go to my local parish, I see my neighbors. If
You're not going to bump
neighbors.
into somebody that you're going to decide to, if you're trying to decide on something big, right?
Yeah.
You don't just bump into somebody and start talking about, oh, we're having so I have a cousin who makes the labels, like probably some of your clothes. He made some of the labels on some of your clothes.
Okay.
Right. That's what he does. He makes labels on clothes. Right.
The labels. Okay. Yeah.
The labels. That's all he does. Right. And when he talks he talks about the problems he's having with the people in China who he supplies labels to.
Yeah.
Right. And if he's talking to somebody who's like, I make something similar to labels in Thailand, and I could get you, like that happens. That's real, right? In Los Angeles, we have the garment district.
Yeah.
And in New York, there's a garment district.
Yeah.
And people do end up like just saying, hey, my cousin makes I don't know, whatever, sews on the extra buttons, and he has a guy who could sew those labels on.
So in the tech diaspora, it's much easier to find those folks in your local neighborhood, but also like smart people are smart. And so, I've got a lot of doctors and lawyers around here. They don't know tech, but maybe it's not that same level of industry commiserating, but at the same time, I meet another software engineer who's in Florida, and we compare notes. And I talked to a guy that I know that worked at some San Francisco company who lives in Kentucky or Utah or something, and it's easy enough to have that same conversation. Now that's just the industry that I'm in. It's probably more difficult if I'm trying to figure out how to get the right button sewn in some Southeastern Asian sweatshop or whatever. I mean, I don't know, so the specificity of the industry is maybe tougher, but in the world of tech, it's just more conducive to the virtual connection. Me and Gavin or somebody we could collaborate, thousands of miles apart, just by virtue of the work that we're in. But if I was trying to build an automobile, that might be more difficult, across those kind of distances. So
it always fascinates me. Like whenever I'm at a party, I'm always talking to this cousin of mine who, like, I don't even understand, like, if because he has a huge factory here in Los Angeles where he prints labels.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And like the labels, apparently he's shipping them to China to be sewn onto clothes that get shipped all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're manufactured in Los Angeles, which
The labels
surprised me.
themselves. Yeah.
The actual labels.
Right.
Yeah, because I actually think part of the problem is when they're not done in Los Angeles, the companies got really tired of spelling mistakes and
Yeah, or there's legal or economic consequences of that because of like very esoteric laws around.
Yeah, and I guess
tailoring.
having a designer, I mean, he has designers at the factory,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like nowadays you would be like, oh, I'll get somebody on the internet, you know. Ixnan says in LA you have a garment district. In
Arkansas.
AK is Arkansas.
I
We
think
don't
it's
really
Arkansas.
have fashion.
Fashion. Yeah. they can't spell it either. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's no garment district in Grand Rapids either, but we made furniture for a long time. We still do.
I mean, honestly, a large part of the garment district, both in Los Angeles and in New York, more than you would think, runs. Oh, AK is Alaska.
I know that. Sorry. Apologies.
I didn't know
better.
which AK was.
AR is Arkansas.
AR is okay.
Yeah.
But like it's actually fascinating to me what percentage and Ixnan is really bad at spelling.
Yeah.
But like it's fascinating to me what percentage of the garment district, like there's a lot of at lunch at the kosher restaurant, people like end up bumping into each other and saying like, hey, you know, I have this order of 10,000 shirts out of that just arrived and I need to do you know anybody who would buy them, that type of thing.
I mean, and
happens.
And I'm sure that is peculiar to that industry, and that's a tradition and history of them all being in the same place, and that's probably true of a lot of industry. But ones that are digital native, internet native, it's just different. It's different. Now, I mean, again, there is something to be said about getting in person. But the amount of serendipitous water cooler conversations that people talk about, that is bullshit. It's time wasting most of the time. It's rare, super rare, lore, legend that some water cooler conversation led to anything that had economic value. It's mostly just kvetching and just a slow trickle of what getting people in person very deliberately, like, hey, I flew in 2 hours. We're going to make a decision. We're going to have a meal or two together. We're going to look each other in the eye. We're going to make consequential decisions, and we're going to go back home, and we're going to now like live with the consequences and execute on this plan. Somehow that like really focuses the mind. I'm a fan.
The world is changing. Like for me, and frankly, a lot of rationalists, especially Maimonidean rationalists,
okay,
especially a few people like Chezi, like they're like, dude, we're almost there at, so one of the midrashim says that when Mashiach comes, the trees are just gonna hand you bread, right? You won't it's not there'll be fruit on the trees, there'll be bread on the trees.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And to some extent, we're approaching that time where, like, the only way I could explain it, like if I were to go back 2,000 years ago,
yeah,
right, and I wanted to 3,000 years ago, and I wanted to explain to somebody what it's like for Uber Eats to deliver to my house.
A camel shows up at your door with a fully prepared meal.
All I do is scream is like scream into the air, right? And
Yeah.
why the screenshots? What was with the screenshots? I don't know. But like
Maybe the thumb.
all I do is I touch on the I touch on this magic like crystal ball, right?
No, yeah, no. I mean, it is.
In 2 hours, somebody shows up with a full feast.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's a totally interesting and valid discussion to like look at like biblical prophecies and things and just be like, huh, like how else would they describe an airplane, a UFO, a massive
You want to hear the scariest
bomb?
thing?
Yeah. A
Scariest
12-second
thing.
war,
Yeah.
for instance.
That is
we all know what that we all know how to solve that one now, even though it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, the Vilna Gaon, for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, the Vilna Gaon, who lived almost 300 years ago, he calculated by his methods that that the War of Gog and Magog was going to be 12 seconds long. And everybody was like, what are you even talking about? 300 years ago, a 12-second war was absolutely insane to predict, but I'm not sure it's so. Like nowadays,
100-ish years ago, it was probably still kind of like,
what are you what are you even talking about?
Yeah, right. And
But
now we know all too well what that would be, and we just hope that he didn't see what we thought he saw.
Yeah.
Or we don't know what he. Yeah. Oh my God.
No, he was one of the rabbis who did a lot of calculations in terms of times.
Yeah.
And because of Kabbalistic things, he calculated the amount of time that the War of Gog and Magog was supposed to be. Partially, I think it has to do with, so Bilam, famously in the Talmud, it says that his great capacity was to know the precise moment during the day when God's anger is at its highest.
Right.
Right.
So then he could curse the Jews at just the right time.
He knew the moment of God's anger, right? Yeah. And yeah, I think that may have figured into the calculation of the 12 seconds.
Now maybe that 12 seconds will be a different kind of phenomenon or paradigm that will be post-nuclear, that will be much more benign.
Yeah.
I mean, we can only hope.
For me, when I look back, the biggest, like, if somebody asks me, why do you actually think like the Hebrew Bible is prophetic, I would say the verse, my house will be called a house of prayer for all the nations, right? We have a scroll of Isaiah, which is like the actual scroll we have is 2,400 years old, right? The Great Isaiah Scroll. It's from 300 or 400 BC. And it says, my house will be called a house of prayer for all the nations. And the fact that that's as true today, like 100 years ago, if you said that, people would allegorize it away. It wouldn't be the very physical reality that it is today.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in Israel, the Dalai Lama came to Jerusalem and he went to the wall And this is the first time that a Haredi newspaper had on its front thing a picture of the Dalai Lama.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had a picture of him, and it said, "My house will be called a house of prayer for all the nations." And this was the front page of a Haredi newspaper. Right? It's like, what do you do with that?
Sounds pretty Zionist to me.
That's what. So
small Z Zionism, right?
I get the Zionist telling me I'm Zionist, and I get the Calvinist telling me I'm Calvinist, which is hilarious.
The Calvinists tell you you're Calvinist because you think God runs the world, as if they were the ones that came up with that idea. I mean, that is not new, and it doesn't matter if one or two of the theologians wanted to really stress that point. It's not.
And the Zionists call me Zionist because I believe God gave the land of Israel to the Jews, as if it doesn't say it in the Bible.
Yeah, well,
as if it doesn't say it in the Quran. That's what kills me. It's like it says it in the Quran. At some point, have you seen that video? Allah is a Zionist.
No, I don't think so.
It is a hilarious song. I think I posted it on the Discord. It is a hilarious song. I would play it if I wasn't afraid of the copyright strike. But it's really hilarious. Yeah. Everybody should go look it up. Allah is a Zionist. It's on YouTube. Yeah.
It's been a big day.
Yeah, there are way too many people watching this. I'm thinking they should go to bed and we should go to bed. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I got a couple more minutes in the tank, but if it's time to call, it's time to call it.
Yeah, we have to remind everyone of Michael Servetus though.
Take it away.
I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't there
far.
a proverb that says something like, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly."
But there's a proverb that says, "Answer a fool according to his folly."
There is.
Exactly right. I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The